Hey guys, Crystal here from 360 Fitness. Workout of the day today, we're gonna focus on some core strengthening. So when we talk about the core, a lot of people get it confused with just a six-pack or having strong abs. Our core is the whole midsection. So lots of times, putting that into flexion is how we think we strengthen our core. But realistically, it's more of a mind-muscle connection that we have to think of keeping everything from our rectus abdominis here to our obliques to our back and spinal erector muscles very strong. So as we go through the motions today, I want you guys to think of all of those muscles activating as a unit together and keeping everything strong. Okay, so the first one we're gonna do is a band push pull. So if you have one of these, great. If not, you can still do the motions and they're still gonna work great. There's just gonna be less intensity and resistance. So we're gonna hook that around our toes, and now we wanna keep this at a 90. So all I'm gonna do is suck, exhale, push my back flat into the mat, and I'm gonna extend my leg. So I'm not going to try to go for speed here. So as I push this leg out, this leg and my abdomen is contracting to hold it strong. Okay, so this leg is pulling towards you as the other leg pushes out. So one leg pushes, one leg kind of pulls to hold it sturdy in place. So we're not getting a speed here. Hold, steady, contract, control as it comes back, then switch. Okay, so let's shoot for 20 total here. And if it helps, I like to keep my head up a little bit. That helps me contract and pull my abs flat into the mat. So the slower and controlled, guys, is typically the harder on your abs. Make sure you're still breathing, but we're holding tight. You might get a little bit of a warm up and burn in your hip flexors as well, and that's okay. Let's do just a couple more here. If at any point you feel your low back burning or you feel like you start to arch up here and you can't hold your back down, you stop. Next up, we have a side plank with the clamshell. So we're gonna pull that same band up above your knees. Again, totally will work without the band. It just adds a little bit more resistance. So elbow right underneath our shoulder and make sure everything's in line. Knees, hips, so pull your knees back and push your hips forward. So I'm gonna fulcrum from my knee, push up off my arm, so this goes to the roof. So I'm crunching this side oblique, and then I'm gonna open straight up from my knee. So the stabilization here and here is really challenging for the core. Because in functional life, we typically don't just have to brace one body part. We have to learn to stabilize through a few. So push up high, squeeze, and just hold for that second at the top. Let's do 10 to 12 on each side here. Up, squeeze my bum forward, squeeze my hip up. Last one here. Good. And switch to the other side. So elbow right underneath. If you wanted to go for a harder version, guys, we go from our toes. So you're gonna come up, and then you can go still all the same things. Push that hip up nice and high, contract, and full star. Always make sure when you're trying to go for the harder version, guys, that your form and your stability is just as good though. I'd rather you get 10 good ones from your knees then a whole bunch of wobbly ones from your toes. So 10 to 12, I'm just gonna do 2 more here, guys. Push the hip up. And remember, just that slight hold at the top. Make sure you're in control. Good. All right, we're done with the band. We're gonna go into some dead bugs, because that's exactly what you look like floundering around on the floor here. So you're gonna start with all your limbs up in the air, and then I'm gonna drop opposites. So this is your brain tester for the day as well. So opposite arm, opposite leg, reaches straight, nice hover. You never relax. So I'm not totally letting my limbs go at the bottom. It's just a hover and everything's tight. So you could do 20 total, or about 30 seconds is probably good. What we're looking for here, guys, is as I let my limbs reach the ground, that I'm not arching up through my back. If you find that you cannot keep your back flat pressed into the mat as you extend your limbs, all you're gonna do is keep your knees bent. So same thing, but there's not as much weight through your core, and that'll be easier to keep your back on the floor. Okay, so that's the important part here, guys. So pull your belly button down and make sure it's pulling in towards the mat in the entirety. Let's go for 4 more here. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. Okay, so the next one up is called TVA crunches. They're for our transverse abdominis. So this is for the deepest layer of our core muscles. So they're a little bit harder to activate. So I'm gonna need you to really focus on your breathing as we go through this one. So we're gonna start with one leg extended. Okay, doesn't matter which one. So we take a big inhale and I'm breathe into my belly. So I inhale, and then as I exhale, I want to exhale every ounce of my air out, and I'm pulling my belly button down into the floor. So I'm trying to make like a vacuum as I exhale all my air out, and I'm squeezing that inner layer of my core as tight as I can. Okay, so inhale, and I'm just gonna drag my leg in. Inhale, drag the leg in. So make sure you have a little bit of resistance. You're making your core work. So that resistance of pulling in your leg is gonna make your abdomen work harder. One more round. Inhale, exhale, and drive every ounce of air out of your stomach. All the air out, squeeze that inner layer, the deepest layer of your core, imagine, as tight as you can. So we're not trying to get up super high here, guys, just the head and the shoulders coming up. Nice deep breaths. Inhale, exhale all that air out. Make sure you're pulling on the floor. Let's just do one more on each side here. Drag the leg in. Perfect. Okay, we're gonna flip it over for a sec. So this one is a little bit more for balance and stability, and a little bit more for our spinal erector muscles. So they're called bird dogs. So again, we're gonna work on the brain power. So opposite arm, opposite leg, we're gonna stretch and reach out. And then we switch. Seems easy enough. So the things I want you guys to think about is I'm not lifting. I'm not trying to get my limbs up. I'm reaching. So I'm trying to make my spine as long as possible. Like I'm trying to push the opposite ends of the wall away. So I'm stretching my spine. There should be no arch in your low back. And then the next thing I want you guys to think about is as I lift those opposites, we tend to want to rotate or twist, right? You might want to fall to that one side. So imagine that you have a really hot cup of coffee balanced on your butt cheeks there, and you have to stay sturdy enough that it's not rocking back and forth and gonna fall off. So again, always under control. We're not going for speed. Hold for that second, really reach. Don't let your back arch out. So that typical is just that little bit, even a little bit of an arch. Make sure you pull your belly button up to your spine so we're nice and flat. Your abs should be pulled up the whole time. They're never soft and sagging out, okay? If you suffer from low back stuff sitting in your chair all day, this is a great one to visualize. Even when you're sitting down, pull your belly button in, make your spine long. Let's just do a couple more on each side. Really reach and relax. Okay, we're gonna stay in this kind of position. The next one is called a bear hold. So it's kind of a different version of a plank. I find that it's just as challenging, and most people tend to be able to get the motion down better. So it's just a hold, an isometric hold. So I want hands, wrists right underneath our shoulders, not out in front. And my knees are gonna be right underneath my hips here. All I'm gonna do is push through my toes and lift my knees to a slight hover off the ground. So I'm really pushing the floor away. My knees are just hovering here, and I have my belly button pulled up. So just into that slight crunch kind of position. And we're just gonna hold here. 30 seconds would be great. If you want, you can kind of do some hip abductions, so just moving your knees in and out. Again, as long as you can keep everything stable. If you really wanted to challenge yourself, you could put like a ball underneath your hand, and you could roll one side in and out. And again, only these things if you can still maintain no movement through your spine. So pull that belly button in, tilt your pelvis underneath you, hover, push the floor away. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relax. And I just have one last one here for you guys. It's called a Superman. Again, more for our spinal muscles on the back side of our body. So I'll give you the full Superman first. So make sure your head's neutral. So I'm tucked in my chin a little bit, and I'm just gonna lift my arms and my legs up off the ground, squeeze, control back down to the ground. Okay. You might feel a little pressure in your low back, and that's okay, but if you're feeling pain, we're gonna go to an alternating Superman. So again, opposites. I'm gonna raise opposite arm, opposite leg off the ground, and that should lessen the intensity instead of doing the full Superman, and you can work up to that later. So if you're doing the alternating Superman, again, watch for the rotation. So as I try to lift, I might try to rotate my body. So both hip bones have to stay in contact with the ground as I lift, okay? So you're not allowed to lift these front hip bones off the ground. And make sure your head stays neutral. Let's do 5 more here. 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. So then you guys can do a quick kind of ab stretch. So here might be good, where you're pushing your hips down. And I want you to take a couple deep breaths into your belly. Expand it as much as you can. And then exhale, try to look up a little bit higher. If it's in your wheelhouse to come up to the full cobra, you can go for that. Deep breath into your belly, expand it. And then as you blow all that air up, you try and stretch and look higher. So one more breath for me here. Full inhale. Slow exhale. Let everything relax. And then we're gonna go into the opposite, into a child's pose to stretch out the back. So arms out in front of you. Sink your bum back towards your heels. Tuck your chin in tight. And then with every slow exhale, you try and sink your bum tighter to your heels. If you want, you can walk your hands over to the left side of the mat. Breathe into your right side of your rib cage. And slow exhale. And then walk it over to the right side of your mat. And then you're going to breathe really into the left rib cage. Expand through there. And long, slow exhale. Beautiful. Hopefully you guys are feeling that and just have a little bit more better control over your core, better idea of how to work all of the different core muscles, not just those fancy six-pack ones that everybody wants. Have a good rest of your day. Get your water, get your protein into you. Be a rock star.